Hi, I'm Dr. Carpentier. Today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about why it's so difficult to make the diagnosis of fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia can present as a number of different, very serious conditions. One day it might present like Sjogren's syndrome. The next day it may appear to be rheumatoid arthritis. Another day it could appear to be inflammatory bowel disease. Fibromyalgia can appear to be many different serious medical conditions, and each of them requires very specific treatments. This isn't to say that fibromyalgia isn't serious, but I'm trying to convey that it can appear like so many different diseases that it can make the true diagnosis elusive. Fibromyalgia is often considered a diagnosis of exclusion. What this means is we rule out all of the other things, and if it's not any of those, it must be fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia has no specific blood test or x-ray that allows us to definitively make the diagnosis. So we're left with trying to figure out what it isn't and being then left with the diagnosis of fibromyalgia. Many people get frustrated with going from doctor to doctor trying to get a proper diagnosis. But before you abandon it altogether, make sure that you have a proper workup with all the necessary lab tests and studies that should be performed in order to make sure that it isn't something more ominous or something that requires a very specific treatment. When I think about making the diagnosis of fibromyalgia, I'm often reminded of the story of the blind men trying to describe the elephant. The first blind man standing at the head of the elephant feels the trunk and says, "The elephant feels like a snake. It must look like a snake." The second blind man is standing at the back of the elephant, feeling the leg, and says, "It doesn't feel like a snake at all. The elephant resembles a tree trunk." The third blind man, feeling the ear, says, "Both of you are wrong. The elephant resembles a lily pad." I'm sure many of you have already heard the story, but it's very illustrative of the difficulty in diagnosing fibromyalgia. It very much depends on what symptom you're experiencing when you go see the doctor as to how the workup progresses. If you show up with abdominal pain, you're going to get a workup for abdominal pain, and it may overlook entirely all of the other symptoms that you experience. That's why it's important to write down in detail the symptoms that you experience, because the one that's most prominent on the day that you visit the doctor may not be the one that's most significant the rest of the time. By having good clinical information, it's much easier to make an accurate diagnosis. So the reality is, time is limited in the doctor's office. It's really important that you keep a good list of all of the symptoms that you experience. Try to write down the timing when these symptoms developed, and bring that information with you when you come to see the doctor. It'll make things much easier for him or her. It'll also make things much easier for you. It may shorten the amount of time required to actually make the definitive diagnosis. It's important that you be actively involved in making this diagnosis because it is so complicated and often elusive. As you can see, the situation is clouded by the fact that there are so many other things fibromyalgia could be, and many of these things require very specific and immediate treatment. Again, I'm Dr. Carpentier. I hope you're feeling better soon.